Welcome to the It's in Queens podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Simmons, and this is the only podcast that focuses on Queens, the borough that has it all. This podcast comes to you each week thanks to the Queens Tourism Council and the Queens Economic Development Corporation, or QEDC. Together, they present our borough as a destination with something for everyone, whether you live here, work here, or you're visiting, or you just want to visit. I've always loved the fall with its crisp air, vibrant colors, and the energy that seems to just fill the borough. There's nothing quite like walking through the parks, watching the leaves turn bright orange and red, or enjoying a warm drink from one of the borough's many local cafes. Fall also brings us festivals, street fairs, and seasonal treats that make every weekend feel like an adventure. But fall in Queens is not just about pumpkin patches and cozy sweaters. It's also a time when the borough's arts and culture scene really comes alive. From exhibitions and concerts to theater performances and cultural celebrations, there really are endless opportunities to explore. Whether you're visiting a local gallery or watching a play or attending a live music performance, Queens offers a rich diversity of experiences that reflect the borough's vibrant communities. And one of the venues in Queens that's always filled with activity is the Kupferberg Center for the Arts, or KCA. It's the largest multidisciplinary arts complex in the borough. KCA presents world-class artists on its campus venues, showcases regional talents and off-site neighborhood performances, and produces professional shows by Queens College students and faculty. And the mission of KCA is to provide high-quality, accessible, and affordable cultural attractions to the Queens College community and the borough's 2.4 million residents. As the largest indoor year-round multidisciplinary arts entity in the borough, KCA features world-class artists and performances at its main stage venues while also highlighting the talents of emerging and regional artists in neighborhood settings. And KCA connects the residents of Queens, the most ethnically diverse region in the nation, to their unique cultural heritages. Speaking of arts, the CUNY Dance Initiative is celebrating a big anniversary with an exciting event celebrating 10 years of the CUNY Dance Initiative Los Ricos and Siku McMiller and Friends on November 16th at Lefrak Concert Hall. Los Ricos and Afro Latin Soul will be taking the stage with live music and dance performances that you're not going to want to miss. To give us more details about this anniversary event and the important work of CDI, I'm thrilled to welcome Alyssa Alpine, Director of the CUNY Dance Initiative. Alyssa Alpine, welcome to the It's in Queens podcast.
Thank you, Jeff.
Let's get to know you first. You have had a long career supporting dance in the arts. What are some of your personal career highlights or memorable moments in working with artists?
So I am the founding director of the CUNY Dance Initiative, which means I've been doing this for the past 10 years. And I have a lot of good stories from the past decade. We are a launch pad for early choreographers. And that to me is one of the most rewarding aspects of what I do. And one, as I was sort of going through my mental archive in preparation for our conversation, I remember that the second year of the CUNY Dance Initiative, we do an annual call for applications from choreographers. We get 200 plus of these, and I sift through them all with our partners. And I remember, because I work very closely with Queens College Kupferberg Center for the Art, that's our home base, and I have a really direct hand in curating. And I remember looking through those applications, and there was this artist by the name of Caleb Teicher, tap dancer. And I looked at his work sample and I was like, wow, someone needs to give this young artist a show. And at the time he was unknown, a tap dancer. And so we ultimately gave him his first solo show at the Kupferberg Center for the Arts in 2016. And his career has skyrocketed since. He's certainly earning a living and touring, teaching and performing. And that's just, one of the examples of taking the first steps with an artist and then seeing them have a really rewarding, fulfilling, and successful career in the dance field, which is no easy accomplishment.
So talk to me a little about the inspiration for starting the CUNY Dance Initiative. I'd love to find out from people like how the idea was first seeded and then how it's evolved over time.
So the seed for the CUNY Dance Initiative came out of a 2010 study called We Make Do, which was funded by the Mellon Foundation. And it found, not shockingly, that the survival of small to mid-sized dance companies and independent choreographers was consistently threatened by the lack of available and affordable rehearsal space. So, just to give you a bit of the lay of the land, choreographers in New York City typically rent space by the hour at independent studios. And these are places throughout the city, in Manhattan, also increasingly in the outer boroughs, that have spaces that are appropriate for dance, which means a wide open room, ideally no pillars. Dance has some very specific requirements. We have something we call a sprung floor, which means that you're not dancing on concrete, that there's actually there's a little space between you. You're on the floor, let's say a wood floor, and then there's a little space, and then there's another floor in between. So that give makes it easier on your joints. So those spaces have existed in New York. There's real estate pressures. I think we all know real estate has a particularly high value in New York City. So some of these studios are closing. And so in 2010, the study said, should we be building more spaces for dance? Or, are there things that we can already use that are in existence? And as part of this, 50-page study, they said, oh, look, there are these dance studios and stages on CUNY campuses, City University of New York campuses across the 5 boroughs that are underutilized at certain times of the year. Maybe this is an opportunity. We don't really need to build more space in New York City. Maybe we can make better use of what we have. So that became the seed for the CUNY Dance Initiative. We did a pilot program in 2012, 2013. We worked with 4 colleges, just sort of tested out this idea of giving choreographers space to rehearse and perform, do something with the students. And it went really, really well. And we got funding from the New York Community Trust to formally launch the program in 2014. I was hired at that time, and I work very closely with someone named Jeff Rosenstock. He's now the AVP at Queens College. Everyone knows Jeff. He's great. Jeff is, he has like modest goals, but then when there's the opportunity to do something much bigger, he runs with it. And so Jeff said to me, so the goal for this first year is to get, the 4 colleges that we work with to continue and maybe add in 1 or 2. And I was like, okay, great. That sounds very manageable. I had another job at that time. I was working for New York Live Arts. So this was like an add-on, and he was like, you can do it in 10 hours a week. It's going to be nothing. An undersell, but it was exciting. So we did an announcement to CUNY colleges that we were doing this program, and we had 10 sign up the first year in 2010, which was wonderful and amazing, but of course, a little bit more than I had bargained for. So we now work with 13 CUNY colleges across all 5 boroughs. We work with a mix of dance programs, which are embedded in the academic portion of the college, and performing arts centers, which are, the performing arts community cultural arm of these CUNY colleges. We've also built relationships with 3 external arts organizations to enhance these partnerships. Sometimes it's for a very practical reason. A CUNY college campus, their performing arts center might be closed for renovations for multiple years. We want our relationship and our partnership and our support for artists to continue. And so then we start looking for someone nearby who can provide the rehearsal space while we still facilitate the connections with the CUNY campus. So that is the basis of the program. But what I should say is we do 3 core things. We provide rehearsal space, performance opportunities, much, much needed for these independent choreographers in New York City. At the same time, we also support the cultural education of CUNY students. And we're also building audiences for dance, especially in the outer boroughs, because scrap that. We're also building audiences for dance, especially in the outer boroughs, because 9 of our 13 CUNY partners are located outside of Manhattan. I will say, finally, what we do has not really changed dramatically over the past 10 years. The core of what we do is the same. And I think one of the best indicators of this is that we get 200 plus applications each year through this open call. We actually get a few more each year, which tells us that the need for what we're doing is constant and that it's really valued by the dance field in New York City.
And you mentioned real estate early on. Is that a challenge that continues this day, the challenge of finding affordable rehearsal space?
It absolutely is a continuing challenge. I think the space crunch is growing because of the real estate pressures that, it's more affordable to turn that loft, or I should say it's more profitable to turn that loft in Soho into condos than it is to rent it out for $15 an hour for rehearsal space. I mean, you don't have to be a real estate mogul to figure out the math on that one. And then also because these independent studios, they can't really afford to operate, places are closing. Or in order to stay viable, they have to charge more for the hourly rate for rehearsal. And so while there are still programs that underwrite the cost for these rehearsal spaces, so that the choreographer might be paying $10 an hour, a private foundation is stepping in with a grant that essentially offers like a $30 an hour rate to the organization so that the organization can keep its doors open. There's a finite number of those, what we call subsidized hours. And so, can a choreographer afford to pay $30 an hour, $40 an hour for rehearsal on top of paying their dancers? The answer is probably no. So there's a real space crunch. There is a huge space crunch right now. And I think it's one of the biggest challenges to, in terms of creating, because you need space. And if you don't have space, you really can't do this in your living room at a certain point.
So you have a very exciting event coming up, the 10th anniversary event on November 16th. Talk to me a little about who that's going to feature, what the audience can expect to experience at that event.
So this is a celebration of our program, and we picked two artists that we have supported over the past 10 years. I would say two artists out of about 250. So Los Ricos is the core of it is a flamenco duo, Sonia Oya and Ismael Fernandez. And then we have Sekou McMillan and Friends. This is a super high energy double bill of extraordinary artists that we've really helped support their careers. These are also companies where live music is integral to what they do. And so there will be live musicians on stage with the dancers. And both companies are also presenting some excerpts of work that they have created during past CDIA residencies. So you can, as an audience member, you can see a taste of what we have supported and what we've helped them create over the past couple of years.
I think it's also important for anyone who's out there that has not been involved in this, who might want to be involved, to kind of know what type of support you provide to kind of to elevate choreographers and artists throughout their career.
Thank you, Jeff. I should be specific. So awarded artists, they get rehearsal space at bare minimum, and they also get a stipend because the costs of creating are high. And while we can't underwrite that 100%, we absolutely contribute to help choreographers pay their dancers and the costs of maybe getting costumes or paying a lighting designer. We want to help with that process. A portion of our residencies also culminate in a public performance. So while some people are on what we call like the creative or development track, they're just creating and working on a new piece, usually in the studio or on stage. Some of the residencies will culminate in a performance for the public. And that's an opportunity to share what they've done, test out ideas, right? Like I always compare dance to a visual artist. They don't just do one work and that's it. And that's, the end. They can go through multiple iterations. And that's something that's really important for performing artists. And they don't always get that chance. So sometimes we're like, hey, we're doing draft number 1 of this piece, knowing that someone is going to work on it for another year and the piece will officially premiere down the line.
Also, I love whenever talking with an organization to find out how their work impacts the broader Queens community. Would love to know how the Dance Initiative has impacted the CUNY community, but also Queens on the whole, in terms of bringing dance and cultural experiences to students and to residents.
So I am proud to say that we partner with all 4 CUNY colleges in Queens. That is Queens College, Queensborough Community College, LaGuardia Community College, and York College. So that's a spread from Jamaica to Long Island City. And I personally live in Brooklyn, and I travel all over 5 boroughs for dance, but I know many people don't do that. And I think it's hard to overstate the value of having artists on campus if you're a CUNY student, or being able to go see a performance in your community without necessarily getting on the train or getting in the car and traveling for an hour. And a lot of these artists are close to the beginning of their career. Um, and if you're not steeped in the dance world, you might not be in the know and ready to go buy a ticket for an artist you haven't heard of that you're going to travel for. But when it's on campus and it's 10 minutes away, I think that equation is a lot more in favor of going to see that show.
And talk a little about the future of the Dance Initiative. What does the future hold?
So for us, I do see us staying the course of what we do. I think it's incredibly needed, especially as the opportunities for dance artists are, I think, dwindling a little bit. We've stepped in over the past decade with, space, time, and opportunities to perform, which are the like that's the basis of what dance is. People want to communicate and share their ideas. So we support 22 to 24 residencies each year, and I am incredibly grateful to the Howard Gilman Foundation that stepped in last year to help us increase our artist fees. Of course, I would still like to increase those more. But beyond what we do ourselves, I think we're an inspiring model for other state or local university systems. The CUNY system is vast, so we have the ability to really, really work with a range of colleges and support a lot of artists. But I think, other places can take this model, which is we have space and we want to really connect with local artists and support that creative economy. I think we're also a really inspiring model for CUNY itself because we have such a successful record of cross-college collaboration. And my dream would be expand our model to other performing arts within the CUNY system. Theater, of course, being the most obvious example. We definitely have interest. We are just looking for the money.
And before I let you go, going back to the event that's coming up on November 16th, sell the event to our listeners. Why should they make a point of putting this on their calendars?
So I think it's rare that you get to see two companies that you might not have heard of, but that are working at an incredibly high level. They both have actually worked with Madonna in Queens, live music and dance. Flamenco is Sonia and Ismael's Los Ricos duo. That's their section. And then Sekou McMiller and Friends does Afro Latin Soul. And it is a truly electrifying, high energy performance. And I think for $30, it's a bargain.
So on that note, if people would like to get tickets, where can they go?
You can find more information about the CUNY Dance Initiative at cuny.edu/dance initiative and buy tickets for the November 16th show at kupferbergcenter.org.
Alyssa Alpine, I want to thank you so much for appearing here on the It's in Queens podcast.
Thank you, Jeff.
And tickets are very affordable, only $30 with no additional fees. They can be purchased at the Kupferberg Center website. Now, if you're looking for something else to do this month, we have you covered. That is where Rob Mackay comes in. He's with the Queens Tourism Council and the QEDC, and each week he brings us details on some of the more exciting events that are happening in Queens.
How are you, Jeff? I'm happy to inform that a fantastic version of Frankenstein will be at the Secret Theater in Woodside from October 18th to 27th. It's the New York premiere of this play, which has been professionally produced in several states so far. It's adapted by Vincent S. Hannum, who is a tireless actor, writer, and teacher. And of course, Frankenstein tells the story of a man obsessed with supplanting God and creating life, and of course the horrors that follow once he's successful. In a historical context, it's really intriguing, at least to me, because Mary Shelley wrote the original novel in 1818 in Europe at a time when humans were close to inventing electricity, and everyone's imaginations were running wild about what electricity could do and how it was going to affect human life. So there's always that historical aspect to it. Anyway, there are 7 scheduled shows, and the Secret Theater is only a block from 61st Street stop on the 7 train. It's a really fun place to watch a show with seating for about 60 people. It's one of those things that makes you proud of the little microcosms that exist in Queens. All right, Jeff, thanks, and I hope to see you soon.
Thanks, Rob. Rob also enjoys the fall like I do. That is just a sample of some of the things that are happening in our borough. And remember, the place to go to discover all that's happening in Queens, well, it's very easy to remember. It's at the It's in Queens website at itsinqueens.com. And if you're interested in learning more business-related news, well, then head right over to the QEDC's website at queensny.org. And when you're there, or when you visit the itsinqueens.com website, sign up for the newsletters. That way you get notified right in your inbox about opportunities and events. And when you visit any place in Queens this fall, for instance, when you attend the Dance Festival anniversary event, snap some photos and share them with us. Make sure to use the hashtag #It'sInQueens, because your photo could become our photo of the week. I'm your host, Jeff Simmons, and that's it for this week's It's in Queens podcast.